It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Kyle Benedict as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. As always, it is great to have you in studio today. Cottonwood Police Chief Chief Gesell is back with us. Hello.
Hello. Good to be here.
Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. Cottonwood Police phone number is 634-4246. Is there anything else we need to get out in terms of contacting the police department? You guys have
an
nice
app. Yes, we do have an app. It's an experimental stage, so depending on how many users we get, we'll determine whether we continue it after the year is up. So absolutely, you can go to Google Play or the App Store and type in Cottonwood PD.
And I believe you can actually keep track of your neighborhood and stuff on that app, and all kinds of stuff that's going on with the department,
you can
right?
Yeah, you can do all sorts of things on there.
That just kind of popped into my head last time you were here. We were talking about that app, so.
I appreciate it, yeah. Not too many, there are not too many out there, so I think if most people that download it love it. So we'd encourage people to download it.
All right. I'm going to have to check that out. I don't think I have checked it out.
I'm offended that you don't have it on right now.
Well, I'm not a user. Okay.
You do live in Flagstaff. So.
I do. But still, I keep track of everybody.
All right.
It's my job. I got to keep track of everybody in Yavapai and Coconino County. It's a big job, but I'm up for it. Okay. So last year, we had you in here several occasions, and one of the topics that was one of the first topics you came in when you started being a police chief was you noticed there was a panhandling issue. At least that's what the public was presenting to you. And you came up with this great plan. You've got a lot of other people, stakeholders in place as well to help out with this plan. And so how's it going right now?
Well, I'd leave that up to the citizens to decide. But from our perspective, being practitioners, I mean, I drive around today and I can tell you that the number is far fewer than this time last year. How much we had to do with that, we being the Cottonwood Police Department, remains to be debated, I suppose. But the bottom line is the outcomes have been very, very positive. We are all about encouraging self-reliance, reducing and enabling environments, and we've worked very diligently to get that message out. And we're going to continue to do that with at least one more initiative here pretty soon. Okay,
so we are still focused on, because sometimes you get a plan in place and then it gets kind of pushed on the back burner because something else comes forward. But this is still something that's actively being pursued.
It is. It's very important to our citizens. I hear these types of comments routinely, appreciative of our efforts. And no one's trying to be draconian. We're simply out there trying to preserve public safety and certainly, like I said, reduce those enabling environments. And as we talked about when I first got here, one of the shocking nuances with Cottonwood is the vast majority of the panhandlers that our officers contacted shortly after I got here were not homeless.
They're not homeless. No, they're perfectly healthy. They're
what I call faux
homeless. It's like a scam. It's more or less a scam and a fraud.
Well, their support, it's a source of income for many of them. And it's certainly, people make that decision, and we're not here to tell them that they shouldn't. We're just trying to give them some information so they can make an informed decision.
Right. All right, budget cuts. I know City Manager Doug Bartosh was in and did a show about budget cuts, and that's going to have an effect on the police department. Let's talk about that.
Sure. I mean, we would hope we were in a better place coming out of the Great Recession, our city as a whole. But as Doug probably mentioned in the show, our revenues post-recession are not recovering as anticipated. So there is a proverbial delta between revenue and expenditures in the city, which when that happens, and that the delta is in the negative, I think that goes without saying, but when that happens, we have to cut. So we were asked, each department was asked to cut 3%. And we've cut over the years preceding this, so this is, we're at a point where I've now cut 4 police officer positions, and this year we also cut a dispatcher position as well.
Okay, so what does 3% translate to for the Cottonwood Police Department?
Well, most of it is bodies. Oh, as far as dollars?
Dollars. What is 3% of your budget?
I want to say it was somewhere just over 200,000 to 235.
Wow.
From what I can recall. But that's the operating budget, and what I haven't mentioned is the capital budgets, which is expenditures that that any city, municipality needs to make to sustain services, sustain infrastructure, and so on. And most of those capital expenditures across the city were just completely scrubbed. I mean, deferred until we can pay for them. Mm-hmm. And that's equally as concerning, and should be, to our citizens as the cuts in police officer positions.
So positions across the board, though, have been lost. Dispatchers. Well, how many dispatchers did Cottonwood Police have?
Well, we're a regional dispatching center, so we have quite a few positions open, but we cover every fire district for the most part, with very few exceptions, and our own fire department as well as the PD. And it's very challenging to fill both police officer and dispatch positions. So keeping that in mind, I mean, it's challenging for us to find and retain people that can do the job and want to do it and are qualified. So it made sense to make those cuts this year in those areas.
I guess we talked about that a little bit last year with you too, how smaller departments like Cottonwood Police Department, it's kind of a stepping stone for some officers, especially when they're first getting in.
Well, I wouldn't say, for us, our attrition rate is not too bad, actually.
Well, we've got a lot of good folks here that have made homes here and lives here, but
and those are the people that we want to attract, and we do retain those. So there are some. We've got one right now. We lost one to Peoria earlier this year, but his wife lives down there. It's like he was commuting up here, and it just didn't make sense. We have a supervisor right now, believe it or not, that has been with us for quite some time, outstanding employee, considering a life change and going down and starting over in a Valley agency, who, by the way, are hiring many of them are hiring massive numbers of officers. Phoenix PD alone is looking for at least 300 from what I understand.
Holy cow.
And it's hard to compete with that. I mean, we certainly don't have the opportunity, we don't have the salaries, so we have to change our mindset as far as recruitment to celebrating the quality of life here, because that's really who we have here, are people that value the quality of life. They still, and I've got a fabulous staff, they still commit 100% to their work role, but it's the quality of life, and those are the people that we need to start. We need to start building recruitment efforts based on that, rather than here's standard government. Here is the job class. Here's the job description, and okay, I'm going to compare a police officer here to police officer Peoria.
Right.
I'm going to go with Peoria. But if you look at the quality of life, there are people that certainly. We call it the paradise tax in days gone by, where they will pay the paradise tax, take a lower salary with perhaps some less opportunities professionally. But for a smaller agency, we have a lot of opportunities. We have a fabulous work culture. Morale is very, very high, despite even the climate that we're in as far as our fiscal budget.
I would think if I was a police officer, I would want to work in a small town, just for the sole fact that you get to know. Because you guys started that
neighborhood officer,
where they're designated to certain areas of Cottonwood.
Neighborhood officer
program, yeah. So, I mean, you've got to be seeing some stuff there too, where they just your officers are really coming into contact with people and getting to know them really well.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
So that would be a big draw for me, is that physically knowing somebody. Like, I come to Steve's house and I helped you out. Well, I'm going to see you in the grocery store maybe a week from now, and see that you're still doing okay and stuff. So I would think that would have a bigger impact on me, knowing that what I've done is actually helping.
Sure, you get a closer look at the results, obviously, and you're not a number. Not to disparage larger agencies, I worked for one for many years, but many times you get lost in those agencies, where our agency is not too small and not too large. We're of size where everyone knows each other, and it's more of a family atmosphere rather than, and that matters, because relationships matter in the community and internally.
Oh, sure.
More, because you can't run away from a bad relationship.
Oh, right, yeah.
Which is what makes small towns great, because you just can't run away from it. If you're in business here, you better focus on relationships, or you're not going to be in business long.
I got to take a break.
We follow the same.
Let's take a break.
Sounds good.
Cottonwood Police Chief Steve Gesell in the studio today. Cottonwood Police number is 634-4246. This is Countywide. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Hey, you.
Yeah, you. Getting that college
college education, what are you gonna do? Graduate and take some office job? Be like everybody else?
Or will you dare do something different?
Like, be a teacher. You could be my teacher. You got the skills, the smarts. Yes, you. You could be the teacher I never forget.
That would be cool.
Does that corporate job even have recess? What are you gonna make of yourself?
What are you gonna make of me?
The Q102.9 plays all the hits.
Yo, what's going on? This is Drizzy Drake.
Ariana Grande.
Maroon 5.
This is Rihanna.
Mateo.
I'm Shawn Mendes.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
Ed Sheeran.
What's up, guys? It's Justin Bieber.
You're listening to The Weeknd.
Start your day with Brian James in the morning. You'll get at least 10 songs in a row during your ride home with Julie Page.
Zach Sang Show.
Catch the Zach Sang Show weeknights 7 to midnight. And Kelly Fox weekends on your home for hit music. The Q102.9 and 104.9 in Prescott and Cottonwood.
Stand with me. Be drug-free.
Stand with me. Be drug-free.
To make a difference, we must stand together.
Stand with me. Be drug-free. Supporting our families and listening to our teens.
Stand with me. Be drug-free.
Stand with me. Be drug-free.
We are all one. No one is immune.
Stand with me. Be drug-free.
Let's stand together for a healthier community.
Stand with me. Be drug-free.
Welcome back to Countywide. Cottonwood Police Chief Steve Gesell in studio today. The department's number is 634-4246. Real quick, so how many officers does Cottonwood PD have?
Well, when I got here, we were authorized, I want to say it was 33, 34, which is a decent size considering people go, well, your city's population is only around 12,000, but our service population is what we come back with as a consideration. Is our daytime population is generally estimated about 40,000.
Oh, indeed, I would imagine.
So those are sworn positions. That includes all sworn, including myself.
Okay. All right. So are we still at that number? Or is that?
Oh no, that's
coming down.
Yeah, we, like I said, we've just given up our 4th officer position.
Okay. Do we have enough?
Well, it becomes, and I've said this before, we can take any type of budget reduction for the most part. For the short term, it's the long term that's concerning. So, in patrol, as an example, we've got to put out. And we've got to field a certain number of officers at any given time, depending on call volume and safety measures. Quite frankly, we want to keep our officers safe and be able to respond and keep our citizens safe as well. And when we don't have that number, we have to force overtime. And then we get back to our discussion before about how we want to attract and retain people that value the quality of life. And here we are robbing them of that opportunity to spend time with their family and enjoy the quality of life because we're short-staffed. Then you have a burnout. We have burnout factor in our dispatch center when we have not as many dispatchers because the same rules apply there, and the same goes for patrol.
Okay. How many dispatchers do we have?
Well, we have 23 positions total, and that's management. That's an administrator that administrates our computer-aided dispatch system. But again, there's a lot of fire agencies that we support in addition to our police department and our fire department.
The Citizens Academy, there's a second one coming up in September.
Yes.
It is. We've been talking about it. We've had a story on it for a couple of weeks now that the next academy, I think it's towards the end of September, and asking folks if you're a citizen, Cottonwood, and you want to learn more about what the police department does, you can go take this course and learn all about the canines and drugs and right down to filing, I imagine, and probably shooting a weapon and things like that. Ride along is offered as well with an officer. The folks that graduate from that, they've got to be pretty instrumental, I would think, for the department as well, especially in a time like this. What exactly, how many do you know how many you have?
How many?
Citizen volunteers that have gone through the police kind of training, and
You know, I was just thinking how many have gone through the Citizens Academy that are now volunteers, and I would say the vast majority are.
Okay.
That's how they get exposed to what we do, and many of them have an interest in policing, obviously, and learning more, but quite a few of them take the next step, and we just brought on, I want to say, 5 new, what we call COPs, or Cops, Citizens on Patrol, that actually go out in the field.
That's also what I was going to ask you, too.
Yes.
Okay, so they go out in the field. So what kind of, if Paul David was interested in being a citizen on patrol, and I go through your course late September, and I go through that, once I'm done with that, what are kind of my voluntary duties if I come in?
There's a training program for our COPs that we just don't say, here's your uniform, go out there. There's strict guidelines because they are driving around. Our cars do say volunteer on them, but they look like a police car, and quite frankly, a lot of people don't notice that. They wear uniforms.
I can honestly say I've never seen one of your squad cars that says volunteer on it.
It's out there.
Okay.
So they will assist officers in accident scenes. They'll, anything that does not involve certainly suspect contact or any type of danger element. One tremendous service they provide for us is they'll actually transport juvenile prisoners from our facility over the hill
to Prescott.
Yes.
Okay.
So, which is a humongous, not only a cost savings for us, but just in respect to deployment, we lose an officer for a couple hours or 3 hours for one transport.
If not more than that even.
Yeah, and which would be extremely costly. We would have to increase our staffing if we didn't have the fine volunteers that we have.
Okay, so there's something for folks to think about. If you're a Cottonwood citizen, you have a clean bill of, you're not in trouble with the law, right? I mean, I can't be a convicted felon and come and do it, right?
If you have warrants or you're a convicted felon, you probably
don't want to
knock on our door.
Right, but if you're not and you're interested in it and you want to help out, and speaking of helping out, I've noticed a couple of stories recently where citizen to the rescue. We had one right here. Just, I want to say a few days back, we did a story. Monica Colt sent one out to us that said that there was some people running through the Walmart parking lot. They had a woman's purse. One was 18, the other one was 14 and 15 juveniles, and they're throwing stuff out of this purse. It's dark, I believe. Officers, of course, come up and find them hiding in a ditch out by Mingus. Am I right so far? And the 14-year-old takes off running. But a citizen in their vehicle sees the officers in a foot chase with this person, stops and gets this kid on the ground and makes him stop running anymore. I see that happening a lot. Where last year we had you come in and we were talking about how many officer-involved shootings were going on out there, and just the blatant shooting police officers in general.
Right.
I'm hearing this more now where citizens are like, you know what, I'm going to go help this person out.
Well, I think we got a great culture here in Arizona, but in particularly in the Verde Valley and this central region of Arizona. Our citizens are very supportive of our mission. I think they get the fact that there are risks that police officers take on a daily basis, just exposing themselves to those threats, and their willingness to help us is evident in the example you gave, as well as the number of people that we get knocking on our door and said, hey, I want to volunteer. And I don't want to disparage California, but the agency that I just came from on the Central Coast, we had 0 volunteers that worked outside our facility. We had some great volunteers that worked inside, but no one on a COP program. And then we put out recruitments. We couldn't find anyone. No one wanted to do it.
Wow.
And honestly, that's a cause for pause as far as culture, as far as I'm concerned. And it was, it reared its ugly head in other ways, I'm sure you can imagine, in the coast of California. But the support we get here is very much appreciated, and our personnel, it doesn't go unnoticed.
It takes a village.
It does take a village.
It takes a village. We got to take another break. Cottonwood Police Chief Steve Gesell in studio today. At the phone number at the Cottonwood Police Department, 634-4246. Just go down there. You can find out more about the Citizens on Patrol program. This is Countywide. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
You can go to our website.
The Q102.9 plays all the hits.
Yo, what's going on? This is Drizzy Drake.
Ariana Grande.
Maroon 5.
This is Rihanna.
I'm Shawn Mendes. Hey, it's Bruno Mars. Ed Sheeran. What's up, guys? It's Justin Bieber. You're listening to The Weeknd.
Start your day with Brian James in the morning. You'll get at least 10 songs in a row during your ride home with Julie Page.
Zach Sang Show.
Catch the Zach Sang Show weeknights 7 to midnight. And Kelly Fox weekends on your home for hit music. The Q102.9 and 104.9 in Prescott and Cottonwood.
This was me. And Mom and Dad. And my big brother Alex. And Jack. And this was the day that I learned that sandals get their name from sand. That jellyfish aren't made of jelly. That stars don't just come from the sky. That the ocean is bigger than all of us. This is the day we all got to forget that I was sick. And it changed everything. This was my wish.
I call you and say, I'm with the IRS. You owe back taxes, and if you don't pay today, you're going to jail. You can fix this by sending cash. And you actually believe me? Too smart to fall for it? Well, last year, Americans paid $100 million to guys like me. 1 in 6 people were scammed. Can you believe it? Well, you shouldn't. I just made that up, too. You are a little gullible.
Welcome back to Countywide. We've got just a few minutes left in the program. Cottonwood Police Chief Steve Gesell in studio today. We wanted to hit, you sent out a press release, I want to say a week or so ago, about a grant that the department got.
Yeah, we're very excited. The Arizona Community Foundation in Sedona we applied for a grant, and it's kind of a experimental endeavor, but we have individuals that are arrested for misdemeanors that are found incompetent to stand trial. Now, ordinarily, if you commit a felony in the county jail, the judge will, you get mental health services to restore that person to competency, to determine whether they can stand trial, and to help them ideally get better, right? And there's a gap in our society, and it's not we're not the only state where this is the case. But we have misdemeanors, people that commit misdemeanors,
shoplifting,
many times serial misdemeanor, like homeless individuals that are clearly mentally ill. And we have individuals like that where they can't be tried or held accountable, and in our case we want to compel them to get mental health care through our alternative sentencing program. And we can't get them in the door to do that, and so we've had great successes in the recent past with that program. We can't do that. They won't accept services many times.
Because it's a misdemeanor?
They're a misdemeanor, which does not qualify them for the services that you would get, because essentially it's in-house, it's residential at the jail, because that's some of the biggest expense with mental health care is residential. So misdemeanor, obviously cities are not in the business of providing those types of social services. So ultimately this money will be used when we find individuals, and there's not too many, we had 2 last year, that are falling through the cracks, and it's pretty sad sometimes to see that, because we just say, hey, sorry, we can't do anything for you, which sounds a little odd when you're talking about justice system, but it's that compelling them to get, or creating an environment to get them mental health care. So this money will enable us to offer temporary housing to these individuals as kind of an incentive, where, hey, if we will house you temporarily if you will accept mental health care services. So we're hoping at a minimum that we help some people and obviously reduce recidivism, but additionally spark a conversation about, let's focus on people committing these misdemeanor crimes that are mentally ill before they commit a felony. And now they're institutionalized, the taxpayers are paying for it, and not the best de facto mental health institution.
Boy, I tell you, at this rate, we're not going to even need a police department anymore, are we? Just going to clean it all up and it's going to be taken care of. That'd be nice.
I would like to see that. I would like to see that.
Everybody just mind their own P's and Q's. We'd be okay, wouldn't we?
But going back to it takes a village. Our partners in government solves very few, particularly complex social problems. Just like the guy you were telling me was calling you on the phone. People want their problems taken care of. Government is the most, obvious, hey, take care of these problems. The reality is we can solve very few problems without these types of collaborative efforts, including what we're doing right now. So we appreciate
We're out of time.
it. Thank you.
Cottonwood Police Chief Steve Gesell, phone number 634-4246. Check out their app. And then the COP program coming up at the end of September. This is Countywide. We'll talk to you again next time.